Do you remember the last time you woke up to a yard full of birdsong on a summer morning? The cheerful whistle of a Baltimore Oriole in the maple tree, the rolling melody of a wood thrush echoing through the woods, the sweet rising notes of a song sparrow from the hedgerow, the sky alive with swallows, diving and swooping at dusk. Now think about the last few summers. Is your yard as loud as it used to be? Are there as many birds? If your honest answer is no, you are living inside the greatest wildlife disaster in the history of the United States. Not in some distant jungle, not in some remote wilderness, right outside your window. In September 2019, a landmark study published in the journal Science revealed something that stopped the scientific community cold. North America has lost nearly 3 billion birds since 1970. 3 billion birds. That is 1 out of every 4 birds that existed on this continent just 50 years ago. Gone in less than a single human lifetime. And the 2025 State of the Birds Report, the most comprehensive assessment of American bird life ever conducted, confirmed that despite years of conservation efforts and growing awareness, the decline has not stopped. We're showing that even 5+ years later, America continues to lose birds, said Amanda Rodewald, director of Cornell Lab of Ornithology's Center for Avian Population Studies. Grassland birds, forest birds, desert birds, shorebirds, aerial insectivores, all down, dramatically, simultaneously, silently. The skies are emptying, and most Americans have no idea it's happening. This is the story of where the birds went, who killed them, and whether we can ever get them back. Let's find out together. To understand the scale of what we have lost, you need to hold this number in your mind. 3 billion. Not 3 million, not 300 million, 3 billion. Imagine every single person currently living in the United States. Then multiply that by 9. That is how many birds have vanished from North American skies since the summer of 1970. Researchers arrived at this number by analyzing data from the North American Breeding Bird Survey, an annual spring census carried out by volunteers across Canada and the United States since 1966. Over decades, these volunteers walk the same routes each spring, counting every bird they see and hear. The data is meticulous. The trends are unmistakable. Since 1970, North American bird populations have declined by 29%, nearly 1 in 3 birds, gone. And the losses are not limited to rare or exotic species. This is what makes the 2019 study so alarming. This is not just about endangered birds on remote islands. This is about common birds, familiar birds, the birds your grandparents knew, the birds your parents grew up with. The birds you remember from childhood, the birds that should be singing outside your window right now. Orioles, meadowlarks, swallows, warblers, sparrows, thrushes, species found in every backyard, every park, every farm field, every roadside across America, disappearing. When you lose a common species, the impact will be much more massive on the ecosystem and ecosystem services, said Gerardo Ceballos, ecologist at the National Autonomous University of Mexico. It's showing the magnitude of the problem. Birds are what scientists call indicator species. They are the canaries in the coal mine, quite literally, since miners once carried caged birds underground to detect toxic gases before humans were harmed. When bird populations crash, it doesn't just mean fewer birds. It means something is deeply, catastrophically wrong with the entire ecosystem. And right now, the litmus paper is screaming red. So which birds are disappearing fastest? The 2025 State of the Birds Report gives us the devastating answer. Grassland birds have suffered the most catastrophic losses, more than 43% of their total populations gone since 1970. Western meadowlarks, once the iconic sound of the American prairie, singing their liquid, flute-like songs from fence posts across the Midwest, their populations have collapsed. Bobolinks, those extraordinary songbirds that migrate 11,000 miles round-trip from the Argentine pampas to the fields of New England, declining sharply. Dickcissels, horned larks, grasshopper sparrows. The birds of America's heartland are vanishing from a landscape they have inhabited for thousands of years. Aridland birds, birds of America's deserts and dry shrublands, have also lost more than 40% of their populations. Forest birds are struggling too. The wood thrush, whose haunting, flute-like song is considered by many to be the most beautiful sound in nature, has lost nearly half its population since 1970. The cerulean warbler, a tiny jewel of blue that nests in the highest canopy of eastern hardwood forests, has declined by 70%. The golden-winged warbler, one of America's most striking birds, has lost 66% of its population and is now a candidate for endangered species listing. Aerial insectivores, birds that catch insects in flight, are among the hardest hit of all. Barn swallows, once so common they were considered practically infinite, have lost 76 million individuals since 1970. Chimney swifts, those chattering cigar-shaped birds that once darkened evening skies over American towns by the thousands, have declined so severely that many communities have erected artificial chimney towers just to provide them nesting sites. Purple martins, bank swallows, nighthawks, all crashing, and shorebirds, sandpipers, plovers, and their relatives, have seen a 37% decline across the board. The red knot, that extraordinary traveler that migrates from the tip of South America to the Arctic Circle each year, stopping in Delaware Bay to gorge on horseshoe crab eggs, its population has fallen by more than 75%. Only two groups have consistently recovered since 1970: waterfowl, ducks and geese, which benefited from targeted hunting conservation efforts and wetland restoration programs, and raptors, hawks and eagles, which rebounded after the 1972 ban on the pesticide DDT. And those two recovery stories are actually the clues to understanding everything else, because the birds that recovered had targeted, specific solutions applied to specific problems, and the birds that are still crashing have 5 separate killers attacking them simultaneously. Let's go through each one. Killer number 1, habitat loss. This is the biggest killer, the foundational crisis, and it's the one hardest for people to visualize because it happens slowly, one field at a time. Since 1970, the United States has lost hundreds of millions of acres of natural grasslands, wetlands, forests, and shrublands to agriculture, suburban sprawl, roads, and development. The grassland birds have been most devastated because America's prairies and hayfields are the most transformed landscape in the country. Modern industrial agriculture has replaced the diverse insect-rich meadows that songbirds need for breeding, with vast monocultures of corn and soybeans, chemically treated, mechanically harvested, biologically sterile, no wildflowers, no insects, no nesting cover, no food, no home, and timing has become a cruel killer. Farmers now harvest hayfields in May and June, precisely when ground nesting birds are sitting on eggs or raising chicks. The mowers kill them directly. In the cities and suburbs, the story is the same. Manicured lawns, non-native ornamental plants, landscape designs that look beautiful to humans, but provide zero food or shelter for native birds. 40 million acres of American lawn, more land than any single crop in the country, that supports almost no bird life at all. Meanwhile, the forests that migratory songbirds depend on are being fragmented into smaller and smaller patches, separated by roads, developments, and agricultural land. And fragmentation is almost as deadly as outright destruction. When forests are broken into pieces, a phenomenon called the edge effect takes over. Nest predators, raccoons, crows, blue jays, cowbirds, penetrate deep into small forest fragments, reaching nests that in a large intact forest would have been safely hidden. Studies have shown that in forests smaller than 25 acres, songbird nesting success drops to near zero. They try to breed. They fail. Year after year, the population ages, the young aren't replacing the old, and the birds quietly disappear. Killer number 2, cats. This one is going to make some people furious, but the science is absolutely clear. Outdoor cats, both owned pet cats allowed outside and feral cats living in colonies, are the single largest human-related cause of direct bird mortality in the United States, by a massive margin. According to the Smithsonian Institution and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, outdoor cats kill between 1.4 and 3.7 billion birds every year in America. Read that number again. Between 1.4 and 3.7 billion birds every single year. More than window collisions, which kill approximately 1 billion birds annually. More than cars, which kill around 200 million. More than wind turbines, power lines, pesticides, and buildings combined. Cats are responsible for wiping out songbirds at a scale that dwarfs every other direct killer, and feral cats are responsible for an estimated 69% of all cat-killed birds in the United States. Studies reveal a devastating pattern. Cats kill nearly 50% of suburban songbird fledglings, the young birds that have just left the nest and are learning to fly. That's the future generation, eliminated before it can reproduce. Research has shown that even the mere presence of a cat near a bird's nest, without any kills at all, causes such stress in parent birds that chick health declines and nest success drops significantly. The anxiety of a nearby predator damages the next generation, even when no bird is physically harmed. And here's what makes this issue so explosive. When scientists and conservationists call for control of feral cat colonies, limiting the feeding stations that sustain dense urban cat populations. The pushback from cat advocacy groups is ferocious. Trap-neuter return programs, which are promoted as humane solutions, have been shown by scientists to be ineffective at reducing feral cat populations enough to protect bird populations. Cats can live 15 years. They breed rapidly. TNR programs simply cannot keep pace with reproduction rates. The debate between cat lovers and bird conservationists has become one of the most emotionally charged battles in American conservation, because the answer that science points toward, reducing outdoor and feral cat populations aggressively, is something millions of devoted cat owners are not willing to hear. Killer number 3, windows. Here is a killer hiding in every American home, every office building, every glass-fronted store. Glass windows kill approximately 1 billion birds per year in the United States alone. 1 billion. Every year. Birds cannot perceive glass as a solid barrier. When they see a reflection of sky or trees in a window, they fly directly toward it at full speed, believing it's open space. The collision is usually fatal. It is not just skyscrapers that kill birds. In fact, low-rise buildings and homes cause the majority of window kills, because there are so many more of them than tall city buildings. Your average suburban house kills between 1 and 10 birds per year. Multiply that by the 100 million housing units in America. The math is staggering. During migration, spring and fall, the death toll spikes dramatically as billions of birds funnel through the continent at night, guided by stars and magnetic fields, suddenly confronted with the lit glass towers of American cities that disorient and kill them by the millions. The cities with the worst bird collision problems include Chicago, Houston, Dallas, and New York cities positioned directly on major migration flyways. In one notorious week in October 2023, nearly 1,000 birds were found dead at the base of a single Chicago building after a night migration. The solutions exist. Window collision tape and decals, screens, bird-safe glass with UV reflective patterns that birds can see but humans cannot, turning off interior lights during migration season, a simple action that can reduce bird deaths dramatically. Chicago has led a Lights Out initiative that has already saved thousands, but adoption across the country remains tragically slow. Killer number 4, pesticides. We already know that neonicotinoid pesticides are decimating insect populations across America, but the connection to songbird collapse goes even deeper and more direct than most people realize. Songbirds don't just need insects as adults. They need insects desperately to raise their young. A single clutch of baby songbirds, say 5 nestling tree swallows, requires approximately 15,000 insects to be brought to the nest by the parents during their 18-day development period. Not leaves, not seeds, not berries. Insects. Soft, protein-rich caterpillars, flies, beetles, and spiders, the only food that can sustain the explosive growth rate of nestlings. When pesticides eliminate insects from a landscape, parent birds cannot find enough food. The chicks starve, quietly, in the nest. The breeding season fails, year after year, and the population slides downward. Beyond indirect starvation, pesticides kill birds directly. Neonicotinoid-coated seeds kill birds that eat them. A 2019 study found that white-crowned sparrows fed even tiny doses of imidacloprid, a common neonicotinoid, lost significant body weight and delayed their migration by days. In migration, days matter. Weight matters. A delayed migrant arrives late to breeding grounds, gets a worse territory, finds a weaker mate, has fewer offspring, or none. The pesticide doesn't have to kill the bird directly to eliminate its contribution to the next generation. Killer number 5. Climate change and migration disaster. Birds have migrated across North America for millions of years, guided by the same seasonal cues: day length, temperature, the blooming of flowers, the emergence of insects. Their entire life cycle is a carefully timed ecological ballet, synchronized with the natural world. Climate change is destroying that synchronization. Spring arrives earlier, flowers bloom sooner, insects hatch faster, but birds, guided by the unchanging trigger of day length, still arrive on their breeding grounds at the same time they always have. Except now, the insects they need to feed their chicks have already peaked and crashed before the baby birds even hatch. Scientists call this phenological mismatch, and it is quietly starving the next generation of songbirds in nests all across North America. In the West, the situation is even more dire. Prolonged drought is drying up the stopover wetlands that migrating shorebirds and waterfowl depend on for refueling during their long journeys north. Birds that arrive at a dry lake bed where there used to be a rich marsh cannot find food, cannot rest, cannot rebuild their fat reserves. They continue north weakened, sometimes fatally. Extreme weather events, the polar vortexes, the ice storms, the late spring freezes that have become more frequent and severe, kill birds directly in enormous numbers. In the 2021 Texas winter storm, millions of birds, including thousands of migratory songbirds, were killed in a single catastrophic event, and wildfires, now burning hotter, larger, and later each year across western North America, are destroying the breeding habitat of dozens of species at scales that would have been unimaginable 30 years ago. Now here is something you might not expect. In the middle of this catastrophe, there is one extraordinary story of hope, and it is the most powerful proof that we can reverse this disaster, if we choose to. The story of the bald eagle. In 1963, the bald eagle, America's national symbol, was reduced to just 417 nesting pairs in the lower 48 states. 417. From a population of hundreds of thousands. The culprit was DDT, a pesticide that contaminated fish, which eagles ate, causing their eggshells to thin so dramatically that eggs crushed under the weight of incubating parents. In 1972, DDT was banned. By 2006, the bald eagle was removed from the endangered species list. Today, there are more than 300,000 bald eagles in North America. A population that was almost exterminated was brought back from the edge of extinction by one targeted policy change, one ban, one decision, one law, and the ducks and geese story tells the same tale. Waterfowl declined dramatically through the early 20th century from hunting and habitat loss. The response was a combination of strict hunting regulations, federal duck stamp funding for wetland acquisition, and massive habitat restoration through programs like the North American Waterfowl Management Plan. Waterfowl populations have increased by 56% since 1970. The lesson from both stories is the same. When we identify the problem and apply targeted solutions, birds come back. Nature is resilient if we stop hammering it. So what can actually be done about the songbird crisis? Scientists and conservationists have a clear list of solutions. First and most importantly, habitat, native plants, native trees, native wildflowers. If every American household replaced even a small portion of lawn with native plantings, the cumulative effect would be enormous. Native plants support the native insects that songbirds need to raise their young. Studies have shown that a yard with native oak trees supports 537 different caterpillar species. The same yard with a non-native ornamental tree supports 7. Plant natives, remove invasives, let some areas go wild. Second, keep cats indoors. This is the single most impactful thing an individual cat owner can do for birds. Cats live longer, healthier lives indoors, and the birds outside live it all. Third, make windows bird safe. Apply window decals. Install screens. Use bird-safe glass. Participate in lights-out programs during migration season. These are cheap, easy, and immediately effective. Fourth, reduce or eliminate pesticide use. Buy organic. Use native plants that don't need chemicals. Support farmers who practice integrated pest management. Tell your local government to stop spraying roadsides and parks. Fifth, support conservation funding. The Land and Water Conservation Fund, the North American Wetlands Conservation Act, state wildlife agencies, land trusts. These programs have a proven track record of saving birds. They need consistent, long-term funding. And sixth, become a citizen scientist. Download the eBird app and start counting birds in your yard. The data that citizen scientists provide is the foundation of everything scientists know about bird population trends. Your morning coffee on the back porch, counting the birds at your feeder, is a genuine contribution to saving them. But here is the hardest truth of this story. The birds are not disappearing because of some distant policy failure in a country we don't live in. They are not disappearing because of some industrial practice happening somewhere we've never been. They are disappearing because of choices made by ordinary Americans. Every single day, the lawn we maintain with weed killer, the cat we let outside each morning, the window we never put a decal on, the non-native plant we chose at the garden center, the building that blazes with light all night during migration season, the food we buy without asking how it was grown. 3 billion birds, gone in 50 years, not with a bang, not with a catastrophe anyone noticed, just a slow, quiet, daily disappearance, one bird at a time, until one summer morning we will wake up and the yard will be silent, and we will wonder where the music went, and the answer will be, we let it go. We let it go while we were busy, while we were distracted, while we told ourselves it was someone else's problem or someone else's fault, or that one person couldn't make a difference. Your grandparents heard skies that you will never hear. Your children may never hear the skies that you remember, but your grandchildren, they don't have to grow up in silence. Not if we start now. Not if the generation alive today decides that the songs of North American birds are worth fighting for. What do you think? Is this crisis getting enough attention? What are you doing in your yard and neighborhood to help birds survive? Tell us in the comments below and fight it out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next story. Because when it comes to nature, the truth is always more unbelievable than fiction.